Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of AZ-900 Training. This is episode 4, where we focus on Azure Compute Services, which aligns to the updates in the curriculum. So let's begin. With this series, in case you're joining us later on, first of all, this is a new series that we built based on student requests. This is episode 4, as I mentioned, and it's focused on teaching the AZ-900 curriculum if you're going to take that AZ-900 exam. Videos generally air on Fridays, every other week, generally 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And submit your questions each week through the Facebook group, and I will aim to answer them on the show if you have any. With that, there are a couple of things here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and like this video. This will get you notified whenever new videos are posted if you want help with your studies. And then also, as a freebie and a thank you, you can have the entire Skylines Academy training course completely for free. All you need to do to get that 5 hours of training is use coupon code AZ900YT. There's a link in the description below. And this will give you the fundamentals for AZ-900, right, to get you up and running. It's the most entry-level certification, and I encourage you to go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3 if you just join in. Another quick promo for you: if you want to expand your training, if you're really looking to get ahead in your cloud career, we do have a couple of other programs, and we're adding 20% off either program using the same code. So we've got the Skylines Academy Cloud Training Membership that gives you access to all of the training courses for a low monthly fee, and then we also just launched the Cloud Success Program, where you get a one-on-one with an advisor, live Q&A sessions, access to playbooks, tons of stuff for your job there. That's a more premium product, but we're also doing the 20% off that one as well. So that's a $200 savings there. So with the ads out of the way, let's jump into describing Azure Core Services, which is where we want to focus in the curriculum today. And let's jump over to the AZ-900 curriculum. So if we go in here and type AZ-900 curriculum, let's just pull this up again so we can look at it. So skills measured, download the course outline, and let me show you what we're going to cover today. We already covered these other sections above. The focus today is we're moving down into this section, describe some of the core products available in Azure. So describe products available for compute, such as virtual machines, virtual machine scale sets, app services, Azure container instances, and the Azure Kubernetes service. So that's the focus. If you already completed all the other videos, then you're already down to this point. So this is a very quick way to get through your training. So jumping back, this is what we're going to cover in 3 sections: VMs, scale sets, app services, containers. Got it? Let's keep moving along. So Azure Virtual Machines. So let's give you an introduction to Azure Virtual Machines in case you're not aware of what VMs are and what they do. Well, for one, think about where this all came from. We had hardware, we've got PCs, laptops. Think about that. That's what we put our operating system on. And our hardware includes our CPU, memory, disks that go in. And typically in data centers, before virtual machines came along, we would rack and stack tons of servers, and then we would install the operating system on top of those servers, and then the application teams would install their applications. So these were physical servers, and you need lots and lots of them. You had to be do a lot of planning to get them in. There's power, there's cooling, there's all the network connectivity, and it was just a lot of work, right? So then VMs came along and changed the game. We still have hardware. It's just basically we put this piece in between called the hypervisor. And the hypervisor gets installed on the hardware, and on premises there were 2 major competitors there, Hyper-V from Microsoft and VMware ESXi from VMware. And that basically that puts that hypervisor there, and then you can install multiple OSs on top of that hypervisor, and therefore multiple applications. So you've got lots and lots of Windows or Linux operating systems running on top of the same piece of hardware, and that allowed us to do a lot of consolidation. We didn't need as many machines, racked and stacked. We could put bigger machines in there, put lots of virtual machines on them, and then put our applications on them, on top of them. So this part on top here, the app OS, this is your virtual machine. Essentially, it just acts as if we had a machine physical, but it's virtual, but it's still running obviously on physical hardware underneath. Now, the great thing is in Azure, because we've got all this hardware and scale available to us in the Microsoft data centers, we can have lots of different types of VMs. So typically on premises, we would have CPUs, memory, disk, right? We would decide how many CPUs a virtual machine got, how much memory they got, how much disk they got. But you can still do that to some extent in Azure. There's different types and sizes of those types. But now you've got purpose-built instance types. So for example, we've got basic and standard A series. These are general purpose sort of entry-level virtual machines. You might use the A series for testing and development. B are burstable. This is basically a more cost-effective instance Microsoft gives you because you store credits. So when you're not using the machine, it's not needing as much CPU power. It's storing credits, and then when you want to burst up, like you get more traffic to a website, they can burst up to the full capacity of the VM. Then you've got D series. These are general purpose virtual machines in Azure. This is the most common type that I typically see customers deploy. And typically you'll start here, you'll say, is general purpose the right one? Okay, then I'll go with that unless there's another one that does what I want better. So D series general purpose instances there. E are the memory optimized instances, and F are CPU optimized. So again, instead of it being like a 4 CPU, 8 gig of RAM machine, a E series, which is memory optimized, might have 2 CPUs to 8 gig of RAM. And then we look at the F series, maybe you've got additional CPUs. So it's all about that ratio, how many CPUs to memory ratio that you have there. G are our Godzilla instances. These are very large instances, ideal for databases and big data use cases. And there's more high performance compute, storage optimized, super large memory, M series, very expensive to run. N series, GPU enables if you need those graphics accelerators in there, like if you put a graphics card into your machine. CAD users are big users of those. And then there's SAP HANA instances as well. So with that said, lots and lots of options for us there in VM types. And you just need to know for AZ-900, generally speaking, you've got the D, the E, the F. Those are probably the ones you're going to get, maybe questions around, but just understand the concept of the instances. You also have the concept of specialization. So within the instances, you have S. So D was the general series. You might have an S, which means premium storage is available. That means we can use SSD, premium SSD disks with that one. M might mean the same series, but a larger memory configuration of that instance type. And then we've also got R, supports remote direct memory access as well. So probably won't get questions on that one, but just be aware of the specializations that basically exist. So that's virtual machines for us. Moving on, we've got basically other options. We've got scale sets and app services. So look at scale sets first of all, and essentially think of your virtual machines as, cattle versus pets. And scale sets allow us, instead of building one machine, we can build a scale set that allows multiple virtual machines to scale up and down. And if you remember from one of the first lessons, we talked about elasticity and how workloads can scale up and down. And that basically means when there's more demand, we can build additional virtual machines. They can service that workload through a load balancer. So the user comes in, hits the load balancer, we spread that workload out. And then when demand goes down, we can, take those virtual machines away. We've also got app services, and app services consist of the following. They essentially allow for web apps, mobile apps, logic apps, API apps, and all of these go on top of what's called an app service instance. This is still a virtual machine under the covers. It's just pre-configured with additional features. So you can see some of them on the right here. We've got deployment slots. This allows us to deploy, say, 2 versions of our application, one in the A slot, one in the B slot. And then as we build the new version, we can flip those around. If something goes wrong, we can flip them back. It's a fully managed production environment. So typically on VMs, the app user is going to have to install their middleware, their .NET framework, and then install their app. This is all managed, the OS is patched, everything's taken care of, and it supports multiple languages. So as long as the application developer is building their application in ASP.NET, .NET Core, Java, Ruby, etc., in a supported framework, then they can use app services, and they don't have to maintain those virtual machines anymore, which reduces the operational overhead for the IT department. Okay, so we've got VMs, we've got scale sets go up and down, we've got app services, fully managed VMs for us that allow certain application frameworks. What else do we have? Well, we have container services, and containers have been gaining a lot of traction recently. Now, containers, just think about these, are standardized packaging for software and dependencies. So a way to isolate apps from each other. So in that first example of VMs, we saw how we had to deploy an OS every single time. We wanted some separation. Here we can basically put containers on top of the OS and allow that to take place. And it works with Linux and Windows servers, but generally speaking, Windows are a lot heavier in terms of weight for the containers. So we see a lot more adoption with Linux in the container landscape. Allows separate apps to share the same OS kernel, and that's very, very important. So again, multiple apps on the same OS. To hit on this a little bit more, think about application modernization. Well, typically application code has a lot of monolithic app issues. Minor code changes require full recompile and testing. The application becomes a single point of failure. The application is difficult, often expensive to scale, and that's because everything's tightly coupled together. Everything basically built to run together on that single virtual machine. And what we're basically doing is decoupling here. We're saying we're breaking that application out into separate services, and essentially is what we call 12-factor apps. Make the app independently scalable, stateless, highly available by design, so those services can scale up and down as needed versus the entire unit of all those servers combined scaling up and down as needed. So if you look at this and compare containers versus virtual machines, we looked at VMs, app OS on top of hypervisor. If we look at containers, you can see we've still got our server, we've got our OS, we've got a Docker runtime, basically. Docker containers are the most common out there. And then you've got application A, B, C, D, E, all running on top of that same OS in this example. And those containers can scale up and down as needed. So that's one of the big benefits there. Now you need to understand for the AZ-900 exam that Microsoft has two flavors of providing managed container services to you. On the left, we have ACI, Azure Container Instances. On the right, we have the Azure Kubernetes Service. ACI, this is the quick and easy, low maintenance option. Just deploy the containers into a self-managed environment. And Microsoft lists the scenarios as follows: dev test, task automation, CI/CD agents, small scale batch processing, simple web apps. So think sort of testing, experimenting, playing around. If you really want to get serious about production, most enterprises are using Kubernetes as the de facto platform for orchestrating containers. And so you would use Azure Kubernetes Service. This abstracts away the Kubernetes control plane, which are the master nodes that manage Kubernetes. That gets abstracted away for you. Scenarios for this include, N-tier apps, web apps, and those cloud-native microservices application architectures that we were just talking about. So that's containers in a nutshell for you. And with that, we've actually gone through what you need to know for the AZ-900 exam. Again, you're only expected to describe the products. You're not expected to know how to administrate them. If you want to learn and get some hands-on experience, we have tons of demos in the AZ-104 course, the AZ-303 course, where we go through containers and how to configure Kubernetes, and we configure VMs and everything there. With that said, this was a rapid walkthrough for you. Again, our goal is to get you through to this exam as quickly as possible. If you want to take more time, go into more detail, don't forget to, one, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified for the next videos, but also you've got that free coupon code. Please use it, sign up. Take the entire course and then take your exam. I think you'll really enjoy it, and it'll give you a ton of background. We've got some hands-on demos in the course as well, especially for those of you looking to take your career further and go on to AZ-104, maybe some of the expert certifications, 303, 304, key ones there. Thank you. Please join me next week. As I mentioned, hit me up on Twitter at vnexc, at Skylines Academy. I absolutely love hearing from people. Please send me your questions, DM me questions over Twitter, or send them to me in the Facebook study group. Please join the Skylines Academy Azure study group, and we are there to assist you. So with that, thank you and good luck in your studies.